Breaking news. I don't have a face. Anyways, I see. I see some interesting speculations here. Wickety D Wick, very clever name. Congrats, Elsa, with your ticket to the Euro Song Finals. Holy shit, man. Hold on, I think I fixed my camera. There we go. Lovely, lovely, indeed. And I see over here on Twitter we got a Finnish comment, actually, from Mr. Mason. He says, hey, Krown, OG viewer from 2019. Hell yeah, sir. Much love and huva päivänjatkoa. Do you know what that means? Good day. Fuck yeah, man. Good day to you as well. You must be Danish, I'm guessing, from the DK in your name, which is good, man. We like our Nordic friends. They're very good people. Very, very good people indeed. And a lot of good people here as well in the old cave for a nice little live stream as we do get going on with this end of the week Friday action here. And let me just kind of peruse around my different charts. I want to find something to kind of settle on for the moment. Let's go to maybe a lower term time frame and then check in on the old chat, see what's going on here. What's up, Mr. Alex Somani? Daily crypto live streams from the Oval Office. Maybe one day, but goddamn, man, I should certainly never, ever be anywhere close to the old to the old presidency of the United States. Ooga booga bitch, says Mr. Van Doysen. Good morning to you as well. Style Sears. OG here, bro. I know, man. I know. I recognize all of the names, every fucking name who is an OG, who's been here, who actually, has commented in the past. Obviously, I'm not going to recognize someone who's never spoken up on the channel, which does happen every once in a while. Someone will send me a message like, hey, dude, I've been watching since 2019, but I've never commented, but I just wanted to say what's up. And nice. 5 years later. Good job. Anyways, all good. What's up, Alex Switch? Good morning to you. A good friend as well from the best country, maybe the best country indeed, Greece, the fucking amazing, magical place that, I dream about very, very often. Anyways, Thailand for Chris Martin. Yeah, a lot of people from Thailand, a lot of people moving to Thailand as well. It seems to be one of those places that people just get sucked into and they absolutely love it. But Elsa says, because of the lady boys. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. We love our lady boys. I love our lady boys. Elsa is also a lady boy, and that's... and it is what it is. Look, I don't make the rules. What's up, Mr. Pow Pow? Good morning to you, Mr. Matthew Smead. Good morning to you as well, Chief Rocka. I always look at your name as Chief Keef, but good stuff. Cheap Vlog says 2018 is 7 years ago. Indeed, man. It really doesn't feel like that long ago, but I guess this market, that we're involved in just makes the years fly by. Even though, half the time nothing's fucking happening. Realistically, in the past 4 or 5 days now, basically nothing's happened for Bitcoin here as well. Essentially since last Friday. So actually a week now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, working on day number 7 of, more or less a range. There has been multi-$1,000 moves, but, nothing as far as a trend goes in either which direction. The Whiskey Reaper says, damn, don't come to Florida anymore, lady boy. Well, I guess that solves it, guys. We're not going to be coming anymore. And, that's it. No more America. None indeed. Michael L says, my name is on here is Michael L, but my Discord name is Big Bob's Mead Stick. Fuck yeah, man. I recognize your Discord name, but that's awesome, man. Big Bob's Meat Stick. Yes, we need more good names like that in the Discord. There used to be a really good name not so long ago. His name was Oppressed Fatty. That was a pretty damn good one, but people have been really slacking on the names recently. They've been pretty boring, honestly, but that's okay. You can use your normal names as well. The Villa Week says, Ich Komi. I don't know what the hell that means or even what language.
That's our Finnish Eurovision song.
Oh, that's your Finnish Eurovision song. Elsa's very unhappy with their Eurovision pick for this year. It seems like. I'm your friend from the IRS, here to help. Yes, indeed. No problem, sir. Let me know exactly where to send the money to. Don't slack on the likes, slackers, says Vacation Time 247, another OG of this cave as well. Good morning to ASDF. I think you just typed in some random letters on your keyboard to get that one going, but all good there as well, man. Bob Blablos on Twitter says, I want to move to Thailand. A lot of people want to move to Thailand. It does look really, really really beautiful. Myself and Elsa have been there, but just to the airport, it was actually, I mean, it was a lot nicer than what I would have, than like sort of the picture I had in my mind. And like super smooth and super easy. Like I actually quite like their airport. Anyways, Raven on YouTube says, Krown, what is happening with XRP? I don't know. I haven't looked at any of the altcoins today. Let's go check out some of the big market cap ones. Obviously, these can certainly help with providing a bit of a bias for Bitcoin as well. You know, this one's more or less playing out a range, same range that we looked at, I believe it was from Tuesday, where we got the highs at 265, and I was kind of saying maybe a little bit higher at about 270, and then of course your lows, you know, coming all the way down here. But you know, after testing the top side of the range, what typically happens, you're going to come at least to the middle of the range, and if you break the middle of the range, then the bottom side of the range. And this one depends where you take the range from. In fact, if we do go with more of a, I guess this would be a weekly look, then you're pretty damn close to the midpoint of the range anyways, about 230. And so far, the low of the day is 235 or so. So, you know, probably tries for a little bit of a short-term bounce attempt here. But, you know, XRP, like most things I would imagine for today, they are just putting in these sideways consolidations. We haven't really seen anything like super interesting or, you know, or like decisive just yet. Of course, decisiveness for XRP would of course be above Monday's high, anywhere above Monday's high, especially on a daily closing basis. I think that this thing, you know, goes back to $3 plus, and it actually puts it in a real position of power to potentially break out coming into the month of June. I mean, anywhere above 270 for June open would look really good to me for XRP for creating, you know, new all-time highs on this one. But of course, you know, one thing before the next, as always, especially with something like XRP, which just has a great long history of failing on just about every chance that it does get, except for this last one, to be fair. But yeah, man, it is in there, which always makes me, you know, a little bit more cautious, especially with the things that we've been going over on this channel for the past week. I see Crypto Clown World, a name that I'm that I'm more and more familiar with as he's been posting a lot more. That's awesome, man. And I always like the emoticons that follow the message as well. He says, GM Krown, I got a piss vid in my DM earlier today from a nice young lady, not boy. Thought you might be jealous. I am jealous, man. All I get is piss videos from Elsa, and they're boring. Like, I don't want to see that shit. I want to see ladyboy piss. She, however, is not a ladyboy, which is very, very annoying, very, very bad. And you know what? I think we need to, I think it's over. That's right. Euro woke vision. It is Eurovision really is like I have to be careful with my words here. Euro woke vision. Yes. They banned the rainbow flags this year. Why would they do that? I mean, that's like their core audience for this thing. Because it's not politics. How is that politics? I mean, is being gay political now? I guess it kind of is, but yeah, they just banned their like core audience. Like, what the fuck's going on there, man? Not a good business decision, I'll tell you that. Eurovision is one of those weird things. Americans don't know what Eurovision is because like we don't care about this shit. But so my first like understanding of Eurovision was, I don't know, maybe a few years ago when Elsa started showing me the songs, and it's very clear like Eurovision is a great representation of the great place called Europe and how the I can't complete this sentence without being exceedingly mean. Sorry, I can't do it. But it's a great representation for the lobotomized portion of Europe. Holy shit, man. It really is. Like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? It's like extremely XX chromosomes, we'll say. Extremely XX chromosomes, which is great for the ladies and also identifying as ladies out there of the world. But for everyone else, it's like, why the fuck would I ever care about this shit? What's up, Asti? Good morning to you. Let's square some C notes. Indeed. I like the sounds of that. I like the sounds of that. I like the sounds of making money. That's always a good thing. Typically, at least. Philip Film says there's even an ESC experience on Roblox this year. Oh, Eurovision. Okay, yeah. Interesting, man. I don't even really know what Roblox is. I've heard the name, but I don't really know what it is.
Because you're over 12.
That's because I'm over 12, says Elsa. Alex Somani says, all I can see in my head now is Terry Crews doing his Euro training on that one show. Yeah, it's something like that, man. It's something like that. The American mind cannot comprehend what the general attitude, the average attitude here is in, of course, Europe. Anyways, I see from Free, he says, shit equals Ethereum. Let's actually see what Ethereum does look like. I haven't checked on it, but last we looked at it, we were looking at a little bit of a short-term pullback. We have seen a bit of a short-term pullback from 27 all the way down to 24.50. Actually, that was exactly where I was looking for it to go. Now having a decent bounce, I suppose, but well, I mean, it does still hold its uptrend. I can't hate that, right? But it is kind of stuck in in a little bit of a precarious place here between that white 200 moving average on the daily time frame and also the blue 377 exponential moving average. So I fully expect a consolidation to go on for at least a little bit of time between these two major regions. Wouldn't really be calling any sort of like major breakout here north of 3,000 until you actually close above that 200 simple at 2,700. But it can take its time, and of course, it could even forward like a greater pullback as well. I mean, this thing could easily come down to like 21 or 2,200, and that'd still be another higher low. It still looks overall okay for another try to the upside. Of course, I do think that this one is likely to get above 3,000, but the big thing that I continue to really highlight here is the monthly stochastic oscillator for this one. As long as it's positioned to the downside, it's just unwise to be betting on Ethereum, which it has been positioned to the downside ever since November of this past year, 2024. So it's been a lot of patient waiting here, and it has had almost a full reset as well. So it wouldn't really take too much at this point. But damn, man, I certainly won't be front running that one. It's for anyone who has front run it. It's not ended too well, unfortunately. Jogan is looking for KTA. Also, thoughts on my mom. Your mom's a very nice person. She's a very nice lady, actually. Very, very cordial, very good manners. We like this. I'm Deuce says, I lobotomized. I money when go sky, when jump to fly. Soon with all the technology coming out, I think that's not going to be an issue at all. But as far as the money, you can always throw your money in the sky, and that will also make it go sky high, I guess, like technically speaking. Anyways. Check some more of these shitcoins. Then of course we can then of course we can get into some Bitcoin's price analysis. The old Bitcoins, the Bitcons. This damn thing. The Myth says, I held Ethereum and Doggy 2024. Nothing can break me. I mean, that kind of is the state of the market, is that, diamond hands really are diamond hands. Despite the meme, it kind of is a real thing. Dogecoin did hit our 25-cent target, now pulling back from that. Same thing as Ethereum, though. Not as strong as Ethereum here, obviously, but as long as below that 200 simple, it's like, I'd be looking for this consolidation to go on for some time. But on the other side, as long as it's above 20 cents, should give another try to the upside. Below 20 cents, big fucking problems for Dogecoin. Although, just like Ethereum, I do think it's a little bit less likely for it to fail here without one more attempt higher. Similar to Bitcoin as well, making new all-time highs, but the short term and the medium term can take many twists and turns, and I think that's becoming a little bit more complicated here, especially for Bitcoin. I will look at KTA for you, man. I actually really don't want to be doing the super chats before we do the what's it called, the Bitcoins analysis, but just because I did mention it, look, there's very, 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 very limited amount of history for this thing. It's only been around since 23rd of March this year, but I'll tell you what you already know. I mean, this would be considered good. It is more or less a breakout out of whatever accumulation zone this was, above about 30 cents. So, just let the trend be your friend in this case and let it do its thing, man. Let it do its thing. But it seems to be only on Poloniex, which is probably not the best sign. What is Poloniex? Poloniex is still around. Doggy's getting 2 ETFs. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. A lot of people put a lot of weight on the ETFs, and it certainly has done extremely well for Bitcoin. But for example, Ethereum, has its own ETFs and nothing. I mean, it does. You still need the actual asset itself. You can't just get an ETF and you go to the moon or anything like that. But yeah, as far as the narrative goes, I mean, it's an overall good thing. Like I said, I do think that Dogecoin probably tries a little bit higher in the next month or two, maybe closer to 30 cents or above 30 cents. But yeah, what's up, Mr. Peter Underwood? Good to see you as always, sir. Goddamn, let it go to the moon. Sir, I've been playing the shit out of Doom, the Dark Ages since yesterday. It's fucking amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my God, Doom is the best game possible. If you are a red-blooded male, masculine person, or if you identify as a male as well, this would be your real test. It's your real test. If you like that game, it's the fucking best, man. Holy shit. More people need to play that game. That's what's going to save our society, is more people getting into Doom, the Dark Ages, and just fucking shit up. It is amazing, man. Pure testosterone, pure gas. I love it. I fucking love it. Very, very sexist comment. I mean, yeah, like are you new here or something? Like, what's the surprise? Alex Samani says, are there any signs you look for that might inform whether something will consolidate sideways or pull back more during a consolidation? Yeah, absolutely, actually. So the biggest thing that I like to reference for that is, of course, volatility. So my preferred volatility indicator is the BBWP indicator. It's like such a simple idea, but it's so ingenious because it just fucking works extremely well. Like, I've seen all sorts of volatility indicators that, include this calculation, that calculation. They get extremely complicated, extremely sophisticated. And in theory, they should be the best. But in experience, in actual practicality, this one is, I've been using this one for 5 years now. It shits on everything else that I've ever tried. It's actually insane. I don't understand why. But yeah, anyways, to answer your question, when I'm looking for at least a consolidation off of whatever trending move, whether it be to the upside or the downside, what is going to best tell me is going to be extreme reads on something like the BBWP, again, representing volatility. So whenever it gets up to, extremes like 100 percentile, obviously, it can't stay there for forever. And it is mathematically a certainty that it will come back down. And when we do see volatility contract, that equates to more or less a consolidation phase, and you especially and for whatever the trending move was, you'd effectively expect a counter move to whatever that was for the consolidation. So in this case, with what is this, Ethereum heading to the upside, and now volatility starting to actually finally contract, we expect a sideways, a little bit of a pullback here. We have seen a pullback, pretty decent move actually. This looks like 15 or 20% move. No, Jesus, I'm way fucking off. Sorry, that's 10% move. My mental math is very bad today, but yeah. Anyways, the general idea is that we wait for volatility to then cool off and get down, definitely at least below 50 percentile, and in many cases even below 20 percentile to essentially decide that, hey, now a move outside of this range is actually becoming extremely likely. So it doesn't always work perfectly like that, but it is a really, 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 really good indicator to kind of maintain your biases or develop a bias for what's going on. And we've seen this same read happen several times actually, in this past week. Here's Ethereum, here's Dogecoin, same thing. After it hit extremes, this thing pulls back, consolidates a little bit lower. And I really wouldn't be expecting that consolidation phase to be over until this, really contracts like a decent amount. Yes, in some cases you do see it do what I refer to as the double derp, where it goes extreme once, cools off for like a bar or two, and then goes extreme twice. That does happen, but it is more or less the exception to the rule. More often than not, you will see it at least come back down below 50. So yeah, man. That's actually a really, really good question, which is why I wanted to answer it. And also it's just, it's a very common question as well. You're saying that you have a tough time gauging the relative strength it will hold during consolidation. Yeah, I mean, in this case, like my sort of personal rule is that I don't like to get too far ahead of price action. So, for example, in this one, you're expecting a pullback when you get to extremes here. I wouldn't be expecting I wouldn't be expecting like a full-on reversal, full-on collapse. That's not what it means. Just go for whatever the next most relevant horizontal support in this case would be, or moving average, or whatever you use to kind of judge your next relevant level. So so to speak. So yeah, man. You can do that many different ways, but I wouldn't get like super aggressive with these things. Consolidations can be very, very shallow. In fact, even a better way or at least just another way that you could do that, guiding your sort of pullback targets would be pulling a fib here. So you can see that price action has come back down basically to the 382, which we refer to as a shallow fib. Credit to Swanee on that one. You expect a little bit of action right around there. Of course, if that one breaks, go to the 50% level, and if that one breaks to the 618, I don't really care too much for the other fibs that a lot of other people watch. I feel like it just kind of muddies up the chart a little bit too much, but these three are very well respected, especially in cryptocurrency land. We do see a lot of technical plays with those, so I do think that it's worth keeping an eye on for sure. Anyways. Free says, I built and loaded up the bedroom map on Unreal Tournament. Unreal Tournament. Holy shit, man. Yeah, that's another testosterone-fueled game as well. But I don't think they've made a new one in decades, right? It's been a long time. Van Duysen says, Baldur's Gate. I love that game. I'm extremely nerdy with those sort of, what are they even called? CRPGs. Fucking love them. Like, I can play those things for 10 hours a day. It's not a problem at all, man. When I was a teenager, I got hooked on the worst drug possible. And it wasn't a real drug. It was called World of Warcraft. And I would play that shit from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And if I had school, I would either call in sick pretending to be my dad, or I'd have someone else call in sick for me. I actually did that, to be honest. I met this guy on Xbox Live at the time, and I was probably like, I don't know, 14, 15, whatever. And he was older. He was maybe like 25 or 30, and he had like a deep voice, and I'd be like, hey dude, can I ask you to call into my school and tell them that I'm sick so I can't go? Genius. Total fucking genius move. Those were the good days, man. Those were the good days. If you're a teenager listening, there you go. There's your signal. No, kidding. Don't do that. You should probably go to school, or at least, I don't know, talk to ChatGPT, and it can probably teach you better than any sort of dumbass teacher from a high school can. Sorry. Again, there's some great high school teachers, but I had some very, very poor ones. So I can say that my experience was very, very bad. But perhaps you have a better experience. That's all good as well. Jogan says, both you and Fibbo has made me 8 figures. Hell yeah, dude. That's fucking awesome, man. 8 figures is no small amount, man. Dr. J says, why is Krown's stories always so? I met this guy. Yes, it always starts off with a nice meeting of an older man. That's actually very true. It's actually very, very true. Korean guy died from playing WoW for a few days and living on Red Bull. I actually remember that story. And yeah, that could have been me. That could have easily been me. I could know life shit like no one else's business. It was actually insane. Gen X says Asheron's Call and Dark Age of Camelot. Dark Age of Camelot was a little bit before my time, but I remember that. If memory serves me correctly, that was like an extremely grindy game way back when. Krown bought those WoW Gold with USD. Yeah, man, I bought I would pay the Chinese farmers there. No, I didn't have any access to money at that age, so. Couldn't do it, even though I certainly wanted to. Richard White says, are your BBWP settings non-standard? Yeah, sometimes I do keep it on default, but I have 3 main different settings that I trial out. So this would be one of them. One of them is obviously what you said, which is just the default. The other one is keeping the length at 13, but switching the look back to 100, and then the final one that I've been using, which I don't really like to use on these charts, but I do like to use on the HPDR charts, is a 7 length here with a 100 look back. That's because I run a 7 length on the HPDR bands as well. So I kind of want these to like match up, because the name of the game with the HPDR is to play those sort of volatility contraction phases, which essentially equate to mean reversion towards wherever the median is. So I like to keep those kind of consistent with each other, because it can give you a good idea of when that's very, very likely to happen. Keeping those same sample lengths the same. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let's maybe get into some good old price action analysis for the Bitcoins here. Let me adjust. I feel like I'm missing something here, but well, we'll figure that one out later, I suppose. Let's go back here. Let me get my notes out and flying around over here. And some water down my face as well. That would also be good here too. All right, lovely. I think we're just about ready. Then we'll get into some of those shitcoin requests for the old super chats. Did you fart, Krown, says Matthew Smead. Actually, I did not, but I would proudly admit it if I did. Unfortunately, I cannot take credit for whatever you might have heard in the microphone here. Anyways, all right, let's get to it. Whoops. Okay. Is this time different as Bitcoin does hang above $100,000, looking pretty steady there, actually? I do want to bring up a few things that we've been referencing over the past couple of weeks that I think can provide some context as to the more short and medium term for Bitcoin. However, the higher term timeframes are still more or less unchanged here, although we will, briefly go over that as well, just to be thorough. Anyways, I'll start it off with a chart that we have not looked at in, I feel like, a week or two, and that is this time Fibonacci extension chart, which has accurately caught almost all of the major consolidations and reversals during Bitcoin's bull run from 2023 to 2025. I'm anchoring this from the high of 2021 cycle to the low of 2022, and that has essentially caught many of these. You can see these first couple ones right here, not necessarily being exact on the highs, but close enough, I would say. Again, doesn't need to necessarily be perfect, although on YouTube you need to be perfect otherwise bad, but of course, you don't need to be perfect in real life. You can make a shit ton of money just kind of following something simple like this. Of course, this one over here did get the sort of lead into this consolidation. Yes, things didn't really pull back that much, to be fair, but it did lead into what was about a month long of sideways price action. Same thing over here. This one leading into the major consolidation, also marking off this sort of presumptive low. Same thing over here. This one marking off a major high before that August the 5th absolute fucking monstrosity of a crash when Bitcoin went from, what was it, like, $60,000 to $49,000. And then again, we saw this in early 2025 coming off of the what is more or less the current all-time high, again coming one bar after that. So this is not going to be like exact perfect, but I do want to acknowledge that it is indeed we are indeed at one of those points yet again here. As you can see, the last 5-day dildo, which just closed last night, by the way, is lining up with the 3.382 extension. So I would be looking at this in combination with Bitcoin, more or less around those prior highs from earlier this year, as a good signal that we probably do get a counter move here in a consolidation. Now, just because it's going to consolidate, or it's likely to consolidate, doesn't necessarily mean that it has to, reverse back to fucking hell. I mean, obviously none of these reverse to any sort of, meaningful, hellish direction. But this one, like we've been saying over the past week here, it can afford a pullback and still remain with its overall uptrend. So I do think that still, whatever pullback that we see from this region is more or less going to be an opportunity, perhaps long term. We'll get into what that would likely look like a little bit later in this video, but I do want to now go over why in addition to this, my short-term bias is still consolidation sideways and and a little bit of downside as well. And I would first bring up this, which I actually completely forgot to bring up over here. Just 1 second as I do jump into my Discord. And yeah, we did see a MetaSignals 4-hour short setup fire off. This was actually, I believe, over the weekend, or no, this was on Monday, the 12th, and it fired off at about, basically where price action is right now. The stop loss for this one, as always, is going to be a close above, in this case, 105,300, which we have not seen just yet. And as long as that close has not happened, these targets are still relevant, although I would say a lot lower probability, because we've already seen target number one hit at 102,750. If we do see another move to the downside, obviously the next target would be target number 2 at 99,700, which is a 37.5% probability to be hit from this particular setup. Target number 3, much lower probability at 20.5%, and also much lower in terms of price action. And this would essentially be my sort of worst case scenario for Bitcoin coming off of, a consolidation high here. And that would be 96,300 and change. By the way, you can actually still try out MetaSignals for like a super low dollar amount. I think their current offer is like $9 for the first, like week or two or something like this. And you can find more about that in the link in the description below if you are interested to kind of get these these probabilistic setups just, spoon fed to your inbox in the mornings on Discord. Anyways, moving on from there, I did want to also acknowledge again the same thing that we spoke about in yesterday's video, and actually the few videos prior to that as well. The daily for stablecoin dominance, which is just Tether dominance plus USDC dominance, is still coming off of a major moving average, which does make me think that this thing's still a lot more likely to put in a bounce here, not necessarily a reversal, but a bounce here. And we do expect this to play opposite of Bitcoin versus USD, and all altcoins versus USD as well. We also see that daily stochastic momentum is freshly crossing up to the north side here, as long as this thing's above 635. And we do see that this thing did also witness extremes on volatility as it did hit that major moving average, thus suggesting that a consolidation sideways here and probably a bit of a move to the upside is quite likely. But like I said, as long as this thing is especially below Tuesday the 6th of May's high, this one right here on the price action pivot, it's a bearish bias, which obviously is going to be good for Bitcoin, and the higher term timeframes are still obviously bearish here as well. We can see weekly stochastic momentum is coming down very, very hard. Bi-weekly is going to have a fresh cross down at this next closure. I think the monthly is still vertical, to be fair. So there is that. But I would say that before this cycle is all said and done, I really would be expecting it below 6%, probably closer to 5.5%, and maybe even all the way down to 5%. But I do believe that is very, very, very likely going to correlate in terms of time extremely close to the high of Bitcoin within about a month, I would imagine. Which is kind of a long time to be to be watching it, but yeah, that is what we did see back on the highs in January of 2025, and then of course the highs of last year in March before Bitcoin led into that like 7 or 8 month long consolidation. Anyways, moving on from there, I did want to also get into the HPDR. This one's also been giving us some targets here. We did see that the daily target has already been met. That was the meeting right here based off of the contracting phase of daily BBWP. So that one's already been met. We even saw it reach all the way down to the bottom side of the 38.2 level, as we said was likely yesterday. Didn't quite get like literally to the decimal there. It was 101,400 was the low, and that was officially at 101,200. In my opinion, close enough. But now we have this. We have kind of a similar setup on the 5-day time frame, in which we see that volatility has come up here to an extreme level and is now once again hinting at a contraction phase. In fact, on yesterday night's closure, we did see it get an official downward slope for the first time since this rally really began in middle of April. So I would be looking at this to enter its own signal as well, similar to the daily, and that does mean that the median here is going to be an area of interest for a price action target. But this is not going to, I shouldn't say that it's not going to, but it's very unlikely to happen in the short term, meaning the next 5 days. And that would imply that we get another closure, and this median should rise up quite a fair bit. In fact, we already saw it rise up from yesterday's period at about $84,000 to today's open, which is $88,000. So naturally, as we kind of chew through time here, this will be rising up, I would imagine, to 95 or 96, 97, $98,000. At that point, if we see Bitcoin come back down and officially test it, that would be the signal, and that would be a very obvious target for this consolidation. But technically speaking, yeah, right now it is around $88,000. I don't think that that's going to be hit in the short term, to be honest. Probably not at all, even if Bitcoin's like truly bullish here. I do think that pullbacks are kind of capped around maybe like 95 or 96,000 bucks. Below those sort of levels, things do start to change around. And speaking of that, I can tell you also why. If I can find my chart here, that would be a lot more helpful. There we go. All right, so here's the thing. On the 5-day time frame, which we just got a new open last night, we can see that the 5-day time frame stochastic momentum oscillator is now deep inside that critical zone, and the pivot, the momentum pivot, has moved up significantly. If you recall from yesterday's video, it was somewhere in like the mid or low 80,000s. Now it's all the way up at almost 96,000 bucks. So obviously Bitcoin is still well above 96,000 bucks. I mean, it's like 8,000 bucks above that right now, to be fair. But with this coming so close to price action, if Bitcoin were to come back down below that number and really see this one cross to the downside and like actually play out a move, that would make me a little bit more concerned, to be honest. But again, just like the HPDR, this one unlikely to happen on this current period. And I imagine on the next period, this one's going to move up significantly more. So, ideally for the Bitcoin BULAs here, we see things kind of hold steady with just a very shallow pullback. Like I said, Bitcoin could easily come down to 98, 99,000 bucks. That's not going to destroy anything. Could even come all the way down to, like I said, 96,000 bucks. The key area here to hold for the daily to remain in an overall uptrend is the last price action pivot on the daily, which is 93,500 bucks. Now, on top of that, I do want to go down to the 12-hour time frame because we have seen the price action pivot for this one maybe not massively shift around, but it has shifted around, and we do see that it is identifying a tightening range here between the highs at just under $105,000 and the lows, which is essentially yesterday's low at 101,400. So as long as Bitcoin's between there, it is still just a consolidation. There is nothing like super interesting going on with this one. Obviously, if Bitcoin does even just come back down below yesterday's low and especially close a 12-hour delta below there, that would be another objective signal that Bitcoin is ready to play out, a decent pullback. Like I said, maybe around like 98 to 99,000 bucks at least. It's not really like a humongous move, to be fair, but these things do matter for the short term, of course. And same thing as yesterday as well to the upside. If Bitcoin can close above about $105,000 on a 12-hour time frame, then I would effectively look at that as like your confirmation of a real breakout, and you're going to see a retest of what is effectively the all-time highs for Bitcoin, maybe somewhere between like 107 to 110,000 bucks. Still some of those targets from our earlier metasignal setup for the daily are still relevant here. So I won't go over it in this video just because I don't think it's as relevant for right now, but those have not changed, to be fair. Anyways, as far as the higher term timeframes go, not only is the 5-day time frame getting like deep inside the critical zone here for momentum, we can see that the 3-day time frame is, of course, also hinting at a twist to the downside. Technically, right now, it actually is up, but the pivot is 103,400, so it's quite close to current price action. Really wouldn't take too much to force that one down. The 2-day time frame, which is again closing tonight, has been flippy-floppy here, but will also turn down simultaneously below 104. This one, again, closing tonight. And then the daily time frame, as we already know, does have that bearish divergence here on the daily stochastic oscillator. Again, not a death sentence or anything like this, but, is showing a downside pressure as long as Bitcoin's closing dailies below $105,000. So that would also imply that, hey, if you do see above 105 on a 12-hour or a daily, I mean, this would be an extreme move in my opinion, but you'd get both momentum and trend in your favor there. So can't really hate that, I suppose. Anyways, yes, so we spoke about all of that. Are there any like other new bullish things that have potentially emerged in the past day? Actually, there is. The 12-hour time frame does have potential for hidden bullish divergence here. It's a phantom drive, but these things do actually get some decent play. I would say that this is certainly not confirmed until you actually close above Thursday's high on a 12-hour time frame, nothing less. Right now, it's just a little bit below there, but if it can close above, at least another test of the top side of the range, and at that point, you're kind of in a position of power to actually break it. Now, I personally don't think that that's going to happen. I think that things, are kind of due here for a little bit of a sideways and downside move, but at the end of the day, my opinion is not necessary for this. You can see pretty obviously what the areas of interest are, both the upside and the downside, and what actually triggers those more importantly as well. Is there anything else that I want to, and just while we're on that topic as well, I do want to still acknowledge that the very high term timeframes, like the very, very high term timeframes, these are actually still bullish. The bi-weekly time frame is going to be showing upside pressure as long as Bitcoin's above 95,000 bucks. So that number actually does come up multiple times now. The monthly is also going to be to the upside if Bitcoin can close this month, which still has another couple weeks left to go. But if it can close it above 100,000 bucks, even almost, that will do it. The bi-monthly and the quarterly are around the same areas as well. So the higher term timeframes still provide some light for some hopium here for real new all-time highs. But I would say in between there, I would still be, more on the not aggressive side, at least for the upside in the short term. Anyways, I think that's a good place for us to leave off on this particular video. Maybe a quick check-in on the quantum wave bands. No new trades since yesterday. Did take a small loss yesterday, it looks like. Sorry, that was Wednesday, so a couple days ago, and actually another small loss before that after having a pretty epic 6 trades in a row of some pretty nice gains, especially this one right here, big fucking move. It's not really designed to catch humongous trendy moves because, this is a scalping strategy after all, but they do happen every once in a while, and when they do happen, enjoy it. Enjoy it. Anyways, that's what we'll leave off for this video. As always, I'm going to wish you the best. Take care. Much love, and see you hopefully Saturday. Nice one. All right, I'm going to take a few more sips of this agua, and then we'll get into some of these super chats that I think Elsa has lined up somewhere on my screen here. Just one moment. All right, what is this? What's going on Discord now? Got a new notification there. A reward available. I don't want it. I don't care. Anyways, Tobo says, hydration is good. Hell yeah, it is, dude, sir. Tesla daily, weekly. And my YouTube stream just crapped out over there. So, whoops. All right, let's go over here. And let's check out what Tesla's doing. Sorry, actually, maybe not this one, but let's go to this chart. Actually, no. I want it on this chart. This chart's better for stonks. Last we looked at it, it was like 300 or so. We were saying it's bullish. This one is now, it hit a high yesterday of 350. Not bad. Overall, I still like Tesla here. I still think that this one's very likely put in the lows for whatever move it was going to have to the downside in April. If it does have another swing down around there, I think it's ultimately an opportunity. But look, with the way that the monthly is starting to shape up, I mean, this is strong. This is good. I think that this one sees close to 400 again, maybe like 380 to 390, and then plays out, a decent pullback from there. In the short term, however, looking at the daily, can you get a short-term pullback first? Yeah, it wouldn't take too much. I mean, if it does, 310 would be the area of interest for myself. But overall, I think that this one still has some upside from here. If you're on time frames like a weekly, monthly, quarterly, which I think you are according to your comment. Yeah, monthly. I mean, this is just a trend, man. That would appear to be the next higher low in a series of higher lows. And the quarterly can be very, very interesting as well. Similar to Bitcoin, if it just trades above the last quarterly high from, I believe it was January, I mean, just be expecting like significantly new all-time highs from there. But I'd give it some, I'd give it some time to kind of to cook, as the new saying goes. But yeah, as far as the short term, if it wants to consolidate here, that's fine. But I could actually see it traveling a little bit further north, like closer to 360, and then playing out a pullback. But long term, again, not really, certainly not bearish as long as you're above 280. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful, man. Let's see. Jokin says, oh wait, no, I actually read those earlier. So all good there, man. Glad that 8 figures is no small amount, man. It's a small amount on crypto Twitter because everyone's like so fucking, conditioned in a very, very poor way. But yeah, man, 8 figures is a fucking chunk, is a big chunk of change. That's awesome, man. I'm very, very happy for you. I mean, that is like, hopefully that would be life changing. If it's not, I don't know what your lifestyle is like. Anyways, Supa Mando says Tron on the daily weekly. Sure, man. Tron, I remember we looked at this one like a couple weeks ago. It was one of the stronger ones, which was very interesting. And it continues to be one of the stronger ones. I think that this one probably sees back around 30 or even 31, 32 cents. Again, let the trend be your friend. This stray wick over here is like very, very bizarre looking, but hey, it is Tron after all. So you got to expect some sort of bullshit going on there. Anyways, where's the next sort of relevant area to be aware of for the daily, at least? It'd actually be very close to where you're at right now. That would be between just above 28 cents to the upside versus just under 27 cents to the downside. As long as you're between there, I mean, it is in a position of power. It is more likely to break out to the upside, but I really want to see a closure above that just over 28 cent region first. And at that point, you're probably looking at, like I said, 31, 32 cents. And I mean, shit, at that, just trend takes over at that point. Below about 26.80, however, I would be looking for a pullback. Again, you still got higher lows here, especially as long as you're above a quarter. So I wouldn't be super concerned with that, in the short term. Really only concerning if it does come back down below about 24.25 cents there. So yeah, Dogecoin says house coin when break the ceiling. Okay, house coin. All right. I wonder what this is going to be. House coin, huh? Well, at least it has the shitcoin pump up of destiny, but is it entering into the shitcoin downtrend of destiny now? Is a real question. When break the ceiling? Well, I have to be honest with you, man. I think that this is going to be your high for a long time. Now, it certainly can get some nice bounces in between there, but even in the short term, I mean, our price action pivot here is 8.5 cents. So shit, if this thing bounced up to like 6.5, 7 cents, I think that would be a nice area for another lower high, to be honest, man. Yeah, I'd be very skeptical of this one, just to be like 100% blunt. But, the trend is your friend, and this one does have short-term and medium-term downtrends now emerging. So, if it does have another pop-off here, like I said, 6.5 to 7 cent, but, I'd be looking for lower highs there just to be 100%, direct with you. Trying to look for something obvious. Yeah, I think that this one's seen the highs probably for its lifespan, or at least for a long time. The only way that I changed my mind on that one is if it pops back up above last Sunday's high. If that happens, okay, Krown is wrong. Fucking kill him, because this thing's going to be going back to, I guess, all-time highs. I mean, Jesus. I mean, it is a shitcoin after all, so you can get some pretty crazy stuff going on there, but it wouldn't be my first target. I'll put it that way. As always, Tobias on YouTube says C pool weekly on Kuderp. Sure, man. C pool. This one sounds familiar. I think it's from like a cycle of many years ago. And yes, it is actually. Oh, and you got the traditional shitcoin chart of destiny. Here you go. You get your first big. This is what Housecoin will do. You get your first major, massive pump up to the heavens, green dildos everywhere. People got green dildos fucking skewered in their bung holes, coming out their mouth holes like a goddamn shish kebab. And they're like, holy fuck, I'm getting rich off of my house coins and sea pools. But it's going higher, baby. I'm fucking holding. And then, hey guys, price is going down a lot. Price just went down 10% every day for the last 10 days. Is there any news? Guys, keeps on going down. When? Stop. Can the developers do anything? Is there any news? Where is the news? It just keeps on going down. Wait, holy shit, guys, it just pumped up 10%, okay? My C pool tokens just pumped up 10%. My Housecoin tokens just pumped up 10%. This is it. The dark times are over. This thing's reversing. It's going back to all-time highs. I'm almost at break even, and I'm gonna be getting rich as fuck. So fuck you. I held my shit. I diamond headed it. That means that I deserve these riches. It just went up another 10%. This is amazing, man. I'm doubling down. This one's going back to the moon. Holy shit. Hey, what the fuck? Oh, what? Guys, what the fuck? It's down 50% again. Is there any news? Is there any news? Is there any news? Holy shit, it's going up again. It's going up again. Wait. Oh, fuck. Down again. I'm fucked, man. I was told there would be news, and now there's no fucking news, so... Mr. Van Duysen says, so what's the news, Krown? The news is there appears to be more sellers than buyers, and that imbalance favors downside red dildos in your face. And this is the chart that most altcoins will live through their whole lifespan. Great place for another lower high. Nah, this thing is going back to the moon. Look, most things get a free ride to have some pretty epic bounces right now. As I've been saying, I do think that this is the last leg of the market cycle, whether it lasts a couple months or, whether it lasts 2 to 4 months, I don't fucking know. But, if this thing did want to bounce up to like 25, 26 cents, that would not be surprising at all. But is it going to be getting back above this December high here? Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. I mean, that is quite literally from where price action is currently at, only 250% move. So it's like, look, if you want to play these epic bounces, I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? if if anything though, I mean this thing is going to take any chance that it can to just dump to fucking hell yet again. I can assure you of that. But if it gets up to 25 cents, I think that would be a gift from God. So yeah, I'll put it that way. Other than that, short term, it needs to hold about 15 cents. That kind of keeps your Bulaw's hopes alive for maybe one last moonshot towards a quarter. But there are certainly faster horses in this race. This horse is not even in the race. It's actually a dead horse, and it's a zombie horse. It's barely even fucking, it's not even alive. I mean, it's just there, dead on the ground, people beating it up, shit like that. It's bad. Lexi P says, Palantir Giga Divergence on the weekly. I've never heard of Giga Divergence, but I think if you just mean bearish divergence, then perhaps, let's see. It has had some pretty epic moves here. No, this is going up. Only way I'd get bearish on this is if you come back down below 120 on a daily closing basis. You had your chance for a divergence. That would be on last week, but we would have expected it to trade below last week's low if that was going to play out. And instead, it actually just made a new all-time high by a good margin as well. So no, it's. I mean, of course, it's a potential, but with the way that this week is acting, I would say that that's unlikely. I would only consider that if, again, it comes back down below 120 and closes a daily dildo below there. Yeah. This one's a fucking crazy one, I'll tell you that. As far as the daily, there is daily bearish divergence though, between this point here and this point here, or at least it's building right now. It's technically not going to be identified by caretakers RSI just yet, but it will. If Palantir comes back down below yesterday's low and especially closed below there, then yeah, I think that you do get a short-term move back down to like 114, 115. Personally, I would like this thing to pull back a little bit more. I want to get some more of it, but at the same time, I'm happy to let it just run it over here as well. I'm not going to buy within this region. So yeah, short term probably does pull back a little bit more, to be fair. But follow the trend. The trend is your friend in this case. 115 to 120-ish region, is completely fine on a bit of a pullback, but I would expect like a decent bounce from there as well. All right, nice. What else we got over here? Krown, can you do some more LARPing and look at Litecoin Bitcoins, please? The Litecoin Bitcoin pair? I don't know. I'm expecting not to see anything of greatness here. And, oh. But Litecoin is like silver. Bitcoin's like gold, guys. And just like silver, it loses its value to gold for eternity. Yeah, I mean, terrible. As always, if you're playing shit like this, you're basically praying and hoping for one of these one-off massive green dildos that quickly gets sold into. So it's a tough game to play. There's been many, many, many forgotten soldiers that have lost their life savings along the way buying the dip because divergence and because Litecoin's good, guys. Litecoin's good. It's going to go up. Okay, it's an OG coin, which apparently means absolutely fucking nothing because this thing was considered legitimate maybe back in like 2018. But yeah, playing a difficult game here if you're looking for something like that. Lucas on YouTube says, Dot and Cake. Just one at a time, sir. Just one at a time. Let's look at Dot. Jesus, you really want to look at some like prior cycle shitcoin? Like, oh God. Sir, for fuck's sake. This is no better than your traditional shitcoin meme coin chart. Like, it really is not. This is what should be very, very eye-opening for many people, because it was eye-opening for myself when I came into this space. Like, look, it doesn't matter if it's a fucking meme or if it's, the next Ethereum or whatever the fucking, marketing sales pitches of the cycle. It doesn't fucking matter. The better thing to be betting on long-term is fucking down. It's fucking down, man. It's really, really, really bad. Again, if you're playing something like this, you're playing the same game as what we just spoke about in the last chart. It's like, yeah, you do get these epic bounces every once in a while, but they quickly get sold into and they never materialize into anything, resembling like a real reversal. So is that going to happen over here? I mean, I don't fucking know. This is a very, very difficult game to play because it is more luck than anything else. You do have some signals that suggest that it might bounce more here. You got potentially some bullish divergence on monthly RSI, but I don't think I even trust that on something like this, especially intra-month, because this thing has been known to just fail as soon as it can. Heavily bearish. Easy to say that it'll never ever reclaim this high from 2021, as most things from 2021 as well. That's not like I'm not talking shit about this one from a chart perspective. This is literally just what happens to almost everything in this market. It is such a small probability compared to the overwhelming odds that it's just going to fail over a long period of time, that it actually even holds higher lows from cycle to cycle. This thing obviously has not. It just creates new lows and new lows and new lows for the dip buyers who continue to buy the dip that continues to dip and dip and dip and dip, and then they're fucking dunked in some red dildos. Like, it's bad. It's very bad. Dweb says, Mr. Doomslayer, sir. Fuck yeah, man. That's my name. Bera on the 4-hour and 12-hour. Bera token. Is this what I think it is? Bera chain. All right. It's a cool name. Wow. Great chart. It's it's almost as if you can guess what's going to happen next. Again, takes every chance that it can to dump to hell. If you're playing that game where you're hoping for one of these pumps, like, you're playing a game where the odds are so significantly against you. Yes, it does happen. Yes, you can make money on it, but that's more luck than it is skill. In my opinion, this thing, is not even going to trade back above those May highs, and is more likely to make new lows than anything else. But, does it get a short-term bounce here to like 380 or maybe even $4? Possible, yes. But shit, even as long as you're below the 12-hour price action pivot, which is all the way at 420, great number, by the way, the direction is down, and all bounces are just that, bounces before heading to its destiny. Its destiny in the gutter. Alex says, Spectre Wealth, the bottom one day. The bottom one. Oh, okay. All right. Spectre. I think it's this. Yeah. Okay. It must be this one. And you said the bottom one, so I'm guessing it's this. All right. Let's see what we got here, because it's got a cool name. And it has had the pump of peace to massively new all-time highs. That was back in December, but and it did dump down, pretty heavily after that as well. But is it putting in its next major bounce that's going to lead into a bull trap? I think probably yes. But let's give it a deeper look. Yeah, I would be treating this one as, at best, entering into a long-term sideways consolidation. Your consolidation range is essentially the price action pivot to the upside at 380, and obviously the bottom side would be your lows at about $1.50. You did just sell off the top of the range, so generally I'm going to be looking for a move to the middle of the range, and that would actually be all the way down at 240-ish region. In the very, very short term, it looks like it wants to try a bounce here. Yes, but look, as long as this thing's below 380, I'd be really treating this one as a lot more likely to come down into the lower twos at least. And if history is anything to say for most of these highly esteemed altcoins, probably fails there as well and comes back down to the lows. Again, it's not because I think that this project in particular is terrible. It's just that's just what almost always happens with these things. But at least it hasn't had new lows on that last dump attempt in April. So, I guess you can kind of make some excuses for it. But what I see happening right now is that altcoins are taking it on the chin on this, on a sell-off, and Bitcoin is more or less unchanged here. So are people just selling their shit coins to get back into Bitcoin? Perhaps yes. But that's obviously still not a good sign for that last chart anyways. My point is, as long as you're below 380, this thing's a lot more likely to go back down to the lows than it is to make new highs. Above 380, then okay, fair enough. I guess, at least $4.24.5 and maybe come back to it then. I'm always going to be very, very hesitant to say that, an altcoin is looking like generally good, poised for new all-time highs if it's not like a very, very new one, just because, well, those are the ones that are most likely to do something crazy, which is what I think most people want from altcoins to begin with. Anyways, Lucas says, Fantom, please, sir. Sure, man. Symbol FTM. Is this the one that rebranded to Sonic? Either which way, we'll look at the FTM symbol. despite some people thinking that it does not look the same, it indeed does. We've done the analysis. We've done the studies many times now. Anyways, and I don't even know if it is Sonic. Maybe that's something else. Anyways, yeah. Okay, so very similar to the last one in the short term, where it's popped back up to the top side of the range. This one obviously weaker in comparison to that. Is it putting in a high right here and it's going to come back down? It actually is really looking like that, to be honest. Playing off of the 21 and 55 EMA cross. I mean, that is your downtrend really setting in and taking precedence and strengthening. So yeah, I'm trying to find something that's like maybe a little bit more optimistic. Look, if it can close this month above last month's high, which is 57 cents, which is kind of a tall ask for this thing, maybe even a little bit higher, like at 58 cents, I would say, okay, I think it kind of has a chance, maybe it pops back up to like 80 cents or 85 cents to a buck. But again, I mean, this is the place you'd be looking for on another lower high, assuming that it is going to follow the traditional shitcoin path of destiny, which is down. So yeah, if it even just trades below the 7th of May's low at 47 or 48 cents, I'd say that that's going to be a good signal that this thing is just going to unravel all of these gains and come back down to, a quarter or maybe even lower. Again, if you're playing something like this, you're waiting for one of these moves, I guess. You're waiting for, a move like this. They do happen, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not a game that you can accurately predict. The game that you can accurately predict for these sort of things is just a long-term trend, and the long-term trend is certainly to the downside here. So yeah, hopium only if that monthly is above about, 58 cents? Yeah, 58 cents, I would say. Until then, this would be the place you'd be expecting another lower high if it is going to be bearish. Assy says, the E's, CRWV. This is a new one. Oh, it's a stock. Okay, got it. I'm very glad that you said that. I can tell that you've been around here for a long time as well, because you knew how to posture that one. That actually really does help. I mean, very limited amount of history here, but for what we have, it's like the beginning of a shitcoin chart, right? It's getting its pump up phase. The question is, was yesterday sort of a climax? It's a little bit too early to really put any faith in indicators for a daily time frame. Maybe we got to go down to like a 4 hour, as you asked for. I'm not seeing any divergences here, but still, it's a little bit too new. Like it's just over a month and a half of history here. So really not going off of much, to be honest. So I always want to acknowledge when there's not much history, like I don't really think that I have a good idea, or at least I can't really trust, my usual tools. So what would I say about this? How's the weekly looking like? It's really difficult because, I mean, usually you would look at this and you'd say, hey, that's one long-legged doji dildo right there. That can be a sign of indecision and perhaps reversal as well. But you can't really call a reversal on this until it actually trades below the low of Thursday's low, which would be 61.37. So until that happens, I guess there's some hopium. All time frames are in an uptrend, so that's good. But if you do see a trade below yesterday's low, I'd be looking for this one to correct all the way back down to like 54, 55 bucks region. And I'd be looking for a bounce there. And if it's going to be bullish, I'd be expecting a higher low there. Until that happens, until it actually does take out yesterday's low, I guess I'd be bullish on it. But, I'm going off of very, 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 very little here. And if I had to call it, I would say, probably does play out that pullback. But it can afford a pullback like that. I mean, it still holds an uptrend with higher lows, especially as long as you're above about, 53. So no problem with the pullback there, although that would be a tremendously massive percentage move, to be fair. Fucking by the dip says, did he do link? I will do the link. I will do the link. Let's go check it out. You've been doing you got some more of that link, bro. Sounds like a drug. Okay. Yeah. This is what we've seen on most of these shitcoins. I mean, I don't know if like link is an actual shitcoin. This one did have, well, it did not make new highs, but it has not made new lows from cycle to cycle. And that's a win. That's a win in my book. Okay, so like most things that we've seen today, it is getting stuck between these two major moving averages on the daily, the 200 simple and the 377 exponential. And I would be looking at this as essentially a rejection of the top side of the range. And whenever I see a rejection of the top side of the range, I'm looking for a return to the middle of the range, or at least a 382, and that's at about $15. So where could I really confirm that this one has actually put in a local high right here and will swing back down towards these consolidation lows? it's not going to be super helpful, but closing below basically yesterday's low, or let's just call it 15 bucks and 60 cents. That would do it for me. I think at least you hit like at least 15 cents, or sorry, 15 bucks after that. Personally, I think at least 14 would be a more reasonable target. And then below the 618 here at about 13 in change, which is actually your most recent price action pivot for the daily. That's where I'd say this thing goes for the full return back down to these range lows here. So just one thing before the next. Of course, the most obvious thing would be any sort of a closure above the topside boundary here at 17 and 75 cents. This thing's going to go on for a nice run. I'd imagine back to the 20s, 21, 22 bucks. That actually put it in a pretty decent position for the monthly, because you could read this as a higher low. Again, the price action pivot here is already kind of switching around, but needs to really maintain at least above here for that to be a reasonable option. And I personally think 17 and a half bucks is probably the number to beat for the monthly to keep long-term hopium alive. But yeah, I mean, you got low, you got high, you got higher low, higher high. This would be another higher low. So there is a bit of hopium here, and it is reasonable, I suppose. Your greater range long-term, of course, is going to be between 27 bucks to the upside versus, again, these lows from like single digits, $5 to the downside. So, breaking back above these, I mean, this thing could easily fly to prior all-time highs and maybe even new all-time highs. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that one. Anyways, Ori Canas on YouTube says, thoughts on TAI. I can't say that I've ever even seen this one before, to be honest, man. It's a new one. We always see new shit every stream, but we don't see any new charts. It's the traditional shitcoin chart of destiny, sir. You get your first pump up, and that's it. It's done. It's done for forever. You'll never see this level ever again. No, I shouldn't say that. Like, there's no way to know that 100%. But I'd say if history is anything to go off of for 99% of these shitcoins, that's going to be your high for at least a cycle and probably for life. Even in the short term here, you can see a lower high being put in. Price action pivot to the upside is 1280. So as long as you're below there, actually would be having a short-term downside bias. Weekly is already selling off on a just very, very light test to that yellow 21 EMA. So I think that this one's getting ready to go back down towards these range lows at 4 cents or so. That move can take some time to play out. But yeah, if I'm wrong, you'll know that I'm wrong, because it will pop back above last Sunday's high, very specifically 1280. And if that happens, you probably get a good shot towards the 200 simple, which is currently at around 19 cents. Let's just call it 20 cents. It's close enough, somewhere around there. But I'd still be saying the same thing over there. It's like whether this thing tops out here, whether it pops up to 20 cents or so. I mean, I really would have to be on cautious watch for the next major lower high. I mean, on the weekly here, for example, this thing hasn't even really confirmed a lower high just yet. If anything, this current price action could be a lower high. It's just been one straight move to the downside. So if it did pop up to 20 cents, obviously that'd still be another lower high. So, you're playing that same shitcoin game that we identified on several of the other ones, where it's like, yeah, these things do get, big pops out of nowhere, but they come out of nowhere. And again, they don't really reverse the actual trend, which is what matters most. Let's go check out what's going on Twitter. Do you think Solana will eventually end up like this as well? I think you mean, or you're probably referencing the shitcoin chart of Destiny. Solana does have a identifiably different chart than most shitcoins, to be fair. The reason why I say that is because, one, it has higher highs from cycle to cycle, and for what it's worth, it didn't actually create a new low, a new macro cycle low from the 2021 cycle to the 2023 or 2024 cycle. It was higher over here despite coming down significantly. So I'd say Solana does have potential for the long term just based off of that. Other than that, I don't really have much to add, to be honest. But yeah, this one is quite literally a different chart than, almost every other shitcoin that we've seen today. So I wouldn't put it in the same bucket, at least not yet. Now, if it comes back down at some point below these macro cycle lows, okay, I'll change my opinion on that. But it's got a good buffer between about $15 and 171 where it's trading right now. Not impossible, of course, not impossible, but yeah, this is a different chart, just verifiably. Stratos on Twitter says, GM, sir, please take a look at Moonwell. All right, it's in the name. It moons and it's well. It's Moonwell. Yes, okay. Whoops, it looks like it was... Okay, this one's an interesting one. All right, it's been around since what, 2022? And I mean, it actually has held an uptrend here, but it does seem to do the old shitcoin pump and dump, but it's holding higher lows, which is a good sign. I do think at some point it's going to get a nice run towards the 200 simple here, and that is at 4.5 cent. Does it play at a pullback first, like most things are kind of setting up to do? Probably. I mean, again, it can come down to like, 3 cents from where it's at right now, which is a decent move, and it'd still be a higher low. I mean, anything above basically last Tuesday's low at 2.5 cents is a higher low. So, I'd be respectful of that. And if it does lose that level, I'd just be looking for it to come. I mean, it's like another 50% move to the downside, but I'd be looking for it to come back down to these lows here. But hey, for now, over its lifetime, it has held higher lows, and it has made higher highs as well during this past cycle. So I do look at that as better. But if I had to call it, like if I had to draw out the LARP lines here, it'd be something like this. It comes down, maybe it does come down all the way here, but should get at least one more try up somewhere around this region at some point before this cycle is over. Most things are going to get a shot to their 200 simples at least on a pity bounce. But that is typically the best place to be selling off on them. Yeah. Other than that, let's see is there any indicator signals here? No. Let's see here. Also, no. Well, there is hidden bullish evidence, but you have to argue that that's already played out. I mean, that's a pretty massive move. Yeah, other than that, I really don't have strong opinions on this one. We do see daily bearish divergence for what it's worth right now. So, at least a little bit more short term of a downside move, I'd imagine at least. So yeah, I keep an open mind on that one. All right, Bob Bloss wants to look at CRV BTC. No higher timeframes? What? That makes it difficult, sir. 4-hour and daily only. Daily switching around to bearish. Many drives of bearish divergence here, by the way. Price action pivot is almost directly in alignment with that blue 377 EMA at 790 Satoshis. So I'd have to be looking at that as bear. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Hey, very bad. Very fucking bad. God damn it, man. Wow. Yeah, it's bullish. It's amazing. It's really, really good. It's going to go to the moon. Look, as long as you're below this high, I would be expecting this rally to kind of unravel. If you can get back above this high, almost 800 Satoshis, then I guess this thing can go for a pretty epic rally towards 1,000, which is a big percentage move. But do I expect anything different than just generally going down? This is like Litecoin's chart. No, you're playing the game basically of hoping and praying for one of these epic bounces. But you already got one right over here. So I think this one's unraveling first, and then you get another one of those epic bounces, I don't know, at a later date, something like that. Ben Dover says, what are the odds of Gala ever going to $1? Well, it's probably not zero, but let's see. Hopefully it's above $1 right now. Well, unfortunately, it's actually at 2 cents. So you only need a 50x. And this is crypto. No, I'm kidding, man. Look, there's a non-zero probability of anything happening, but I would say whatever probability, we can actually really look at the probabilities of this happening. Just need to go over the HPDR. Let's go to maybe like a monthly for this one. Okay, so to get back above this, even the 99.9% of historical returns range highs is actually not at $1. It's actually below $1 at 87 cents. So actually, according to the HPDR, for this month at least, and this will update from month to month, obviously, so I imagine it would have a better read than this, but as of right now, it actually would say that this is impossible, or basically 0% probability, which, again, that would change if this thing did rally, but yeah, man, look, you got your traditional shitcoin chart here. I mean, this is like a very nice view of this one. This is the real view. This is the linear scale. This is fucking garbage. Absolute fucking garbage, man. Terrible. Just, again, you're playing the game of hoping and praying for one of these big, massive bounces. Do you get another one right here? Maybe, it's possible, but the long-term direction is the same on almost all of these. I do think at some point, again, it will get a bounce to that 200 simple, and that would be about 2.7 cents. But is that going to happen from where it's at right now? I guess it could. I mean, I wouldn't be asking for too much, to be honest. But yeah, but by the same token, if this thing really closes below like 1.9 cent, then I mean that's just your next local high, and it's coming back down to the lows, I suppose. But again, man, this is just like in a more serious tone. This is just fucking awful. It's like fucking god awful. Like really. I'm not calling you god awful. Probably a very nice person, probably a very good person. But as far as charts goes, whoever was trying to sell you on this, like delete them. Like this is bad. This is very bad. This is what most shitcoins will look like throughout their lifespan. Crypto Rect RD, what's up, man? Tau on the 4-hour and daily, got it. Okay, symbol TAO. I guess we go to maybe MEXC for this one. At least it doesn't have your traditional shitcoin chart of destiny, so there's that. And this one's actually even above its 200 simple, so it is markedly different than most things we've seen today. But as you can see, it is right at the top side of that last price action pivot. It's very common to see pullbacks from these sort of pivots. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go down to like 0 or anything like that, but just a pullback, right? Just a pullback, bro. Do we see anything that's obvious here? Very, very slight drives of bearish divergence, but that's not like super, super concerning. What I would say is that if this one closes below 410, daily close below about 410 would confirm this as a local high, and I'd be looking for this one to swing back down, honestly, towards 320-ish region, 350 to 320. But, again, it's certainly not as bad as the rest of them. If it can close back above this price action pivot at $500, which I believe was our target from the last couple of weeks that we looked at this one, at that point, I actually would be looking for this one to put in a move towards $600. But for right now, I think that this is probably going to be a local high, and it's going to swing back down and try for a higher low somewhere in like the mid threes. That would make most sense to me. But yeah, really weird looking one on the higher term time frame. So that's what's really holding me off from having like a very, very strong opinion about this one. Yeah, I really don't. My strong opinion would be more likely to pull back in the short term, but that's not, a full on collapse signal or anything like this. And if it can reclaim basically Monday's high, then okay, big move towards $600, I'd imagine, maybe even the prior highs. But until then, more likely to pull back, I'd suspect. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing like any super obvious signals here just yet. So fair enough. All right, what else we got? Or she also said 4-hour. Let's see what the 4-hour looks like. 4-hour short term, if it wants to pop back up towards 455, that's fine. Doesn't really do anything for it though. Nike Bison says, hi, Mr. Crave. What's up, man? Wondering if the April bullish engulfing on virtual USD monthly is worth anything. Let's see. I mean, bullish engulfings are on higher term time frames are usually like very, very strong signals. But first, let's make sure that it actually is, because this is a very oftenly misidentified signal. So let's see. Yeah, that is a bullish engulfing indeed. And you did see, very nice continuation from that to whatever my magical line is right there. Okay, I see where it's coming in from that last breakdown. Very similar to a lot of these other charts that we've seen. It's popped up to the top side of the range. I'm always going to bet on a counter move after, hitting a range high or a range low. In this case, it hit a range high, so I'd be betting on a short-term downside move, at least 165 to maybe even 150-ish region. Yeah, only way that I'd kind of invalidate that is if it popped back up above this week's high, and at that point, yeah, I mean, this thing could go back easily to $3 plus. But more often than not, you're going to be on the right side of things, betting on at least a pullback from this region. And if it comes back down below the price action pivot, I mean, at that point, I would look for this whole rally to get unraveled, because you did see the bullish engulfing dildo over here. Like, it did do what it's supposed to do. I mean, the next major move was to the upside. That's a pretty big percentage move right here, right? That's 40% move from the close of, April. So not bad. But, I'm always going to be really, really, really cautious when it comes to shitcoin charts like this, where they get this massive pump up, they dump all the way back down, and then they get their first pop after that. I mean, whether it tops out here or whether it tops out around $3, I don't think it's going to be doing all that much in the short term. Yeah. Crypto Juggle says, hey, Krown, TRX, we actually looked at that one earlier, and it actually still looks pretty damn good, but I think like most things, it is at the top side of its current range. It is, but if anything looks like it wants to break through, it would be this one, to be honest. Need to see a closure above 28 and change. And yeah, at that point, I'd be looking for this one, 31, 32 cents. Does it just run for all-time? I mean, all-time highs are like pretty, significantly higher from that number. I'd take it one step at a time. And I'd say 30, like mid to low 30s from that point. Yeah. If you're just on a 4-hour time frame, let's see, you got a tightening range going on here between 28 cents to the upside versus 26.70 to the downside. Anything between there is kind of meaningless. Slight bullish bias just based off a trend. Super Ghoulie says, bro, how is Dubai treating you? Well, we haven't been there for quite some time because we hate it. I mean, we don't hate it, but we don't hate it. We just don't like being there for that long. Is it all Lambos and Raris, as I say? That is really true, honestly, man. Dubai attracts a very specific type of person, and I don't really seem to get along very well with that type of person. Anyways, can we have a look at HSI Hang Seng Index? Yeah, man, 1 and 4. Okay, so very low term timeframes here, but this is China's like main indice. Do you want to look at the futures, or I do want to see the higher term timeframes first, just to see. Yeah, holding that very, very well there. All right. As you asked for, 4-hour and hourly. 4-hour, this one is actually starting to switch around into a bullish pivot. Just needs to close here or higher by the end of this next period in 1 hour, 15 minutes. And we do see that there is developing hidden bullish divergence if it can close here or higher as well. So, if that, assuming that gets confirmed, I'd be looking for another retest of these highs. Maybe it even just continues with trend, but, at least somewhere around these highs at 23,600-ish region. Same thing on the hourly as well. Now, if it does come back down below the price action pivot here and close below that 23,100, I'd be looking for, a decent move to the downside first. I think that's less likely here. But if it does come down, 22,750 would be the area of interest for right now. But yeah, overall, I mean, China has like a really weird looking, they just generally have like very weird looking charts, but it'd be hard for me not to argue that this is not bullish. But again, very, very weird charts coming out of that country. Loma Chilla Azul says, is hot as fucking Dubai. That is very, very true. We went to Dubai in September one year, and oh my fucking God, man. I'd never experienced anything remotely close to that. It was, first off, it was like 40 or 41 degrees Celsius, which is for the Americans out there, that's like, I don't know, definitely over 100, maybe like 105 to 110 region. But it's not just that, it's also humid as hell. I remember the first day we got there, we opened the door and immediately like all of the windows just fogged up inside, like everywhere. It's that fucking intense, man. And we were training boxing and everything too there. And Jesus Christ, man, like just being outside was a workout in itself. And the pool was boiling as well. Yeah, you actually couldn't even go into the pool. It was too hot. Like, it's literally too fucking hot, man. Boris says, Medellin, Colombia will amaze you, Krown. Good, fresh, natural water and food. Yeah, that actually sounds really good. I've heard, I actually do have a friend who moved there. Do you remember, oh my God, what was his name? Angelo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he moved there. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. I think I'd just be afraid of the crime, but who knows if that's actually like an issue. Shout out Colombia. BNB daily and weekly for Spartikuza. BNB. Yeah, let's look at BNB. It doesn't really get requested that often, but it actually does have one of the best charts of the majors. Yeah, okay, so hit the top side of the range here, coming back down like most things, but this one obviously in a much different position than most shitcoins we've looked at today. I'd treat this one as bullish as long as you're above the 200 simple, that's 640 on a daily closing basis. Below there, I look for a pullback, but it's not like a go back to zero type thing. It's just, maybe go back to like 615-ish region and try for a higher low there. But, this thing's honestly right now, it even looks like it's trying to set up for a higher low where it's at right now. I mean, if things do set up for a higher low where they're at right now, assuming Bitcoin does as well, I mean, that's going to look like pure strength, but but it really makes you consider like, okay, if things didn't even really cool off on a level like this, then, I do think that your overall rally becomes a little bit less impressive overall. But just like a quick splurt up to new highs and then kind of done from there for a while. Anyways, yeah, as far as BNB goes, I mean, you got hidden bullish divergence here on the weekly again, bi-weekly, same thing, monthly, it's developing right now. I mean, again, it's very early within this month to be judging it, but if it does close above 650 by end of month, I think that this one is on a path to create new highs. For right now, though, your range is your range, and your range is highs here, and your range lows are here. You just tested the top side of the range, so I'm almost always going to be biased towards a return to the middle of the range. But if anything looks like it might not do that, it would actually be BNB, which is like really interesting. It's just continued to be one of the strongest ones. Even the 12-hour looks like it's ready to try another move towards like 680. So if you do close above Monday's high, even on a 12-hour time frame, I'd say that's probably good enough for me. And I'd be looking for this one to make a move towards like 730, maybe even 750. It's basically our all-time highs anyways, man. Let's see, we're going to shut this off probably soon, but let me take a few more sips. We'll get to Andor as well. Andor says, Oklo daily weekly looks to me like Super Bowl derp. All right, well, let's see. Super Bowl derp sounds good. It's a real stock. It's a real stock. Nice. I mean, it certainly had a Super Bowl derp move right here, but man, if you're, and look, this is not bearish. Okay. I want to be very, very clear in stating this. Like, this is not a bearish chart. This is a good chart overall. Even your monthly is about to print hidden bullish divergence again, but could it afford a short-term pullback? I mean, this would be the area that you'd be expecting a short-term pullback from if you're going to get one, 38.80. So basically, as long as you're closing below Wednesday's high, I do think it's a little bit more likely to try a pullback here, maybe to like 32.25. Again, that's not like a terrible move or anything like this, but if you close above 38.80, I think that this one's going to go on a pretty massive run, man. Like 45 to 48 region. I mean, that's a tremendously massive move percentage-wise, especially for a stonk. But again, personally, whenever I see something around a top side of the range or a bottom side of the range, I'm going to be looking for a counter move, at least on the first pass. So that would be this one right here. Doesn't always work like that, but it does happen very, very, very often. So yeah, but it's looking strong, man. It is looking quite strong. All right, how is it from South Africa? I think it's good. I don't really know. I don't know what that means. Essential says Thailand or Colombia. I mean, I've not really spent any meaningful time in either, so I'm certainly not the best person to ask. Boris says Medellin, Colombia will amaze. Wait, no, I literally just read that. I thought it was a new thing. Andy says Jup, please. This is Jupiter Exchange. I feel like there's a more long-running history chart here somewhere, but maybe not. I guess we go to Bitstamp, see yeah, there's definitely more history than this. I know that for sure, for absolute certainty. What would be maybe Binance? No. Did we do it again? Okay, well, yeah, this one works. Pretty weak here, man. If it does get another move to the upside, I'd be looking for, like 75 to 80 cents. Again, that's assuming that it actually just, reverses right here and then tries another major upside move. But assuming that it does close anywhere below yesterday's low, which is 48.71, I think that you're coming back down to the lows after that, because this would be a great place for yet another lower high on your higher time frames, like a 5-day. So yeah, I know that that's not like super, super helpful, but basically, I guess a little bit of hopium in the short term alive, again, as long as you're above yesterday's low. But the second that you start to close below there on a daily time frame, like this one's coming back down to the lows. Until that happens, I do think that most shit coins, even the shittiest of the shit coins, which this one probably isn't, will get at least to like their 200 simple on these rallies, and that's where I'm getting that like mid to upper 70 cent region from. Trey only says Kava stock. Nice. Thank you for specifying. All right, go ahead and close it. Elsie's also got Jim to get to as well. Okay. This is a weed stock, right? No, it is a weed stock, I'm pretty sure. Fuck, man. I having a hard time like finding an obvious thing here. And you're on a daily and a weekly. Like, pin it. I will pin it. All right, let's replace that pin message. Like, I do want to call this one upside here. The problem is like this is the exact, like if this one is going to put in a local high, this would be the exact area you're looking for. So how would you confirm a local high here? It'd need to come back down below Monday's low and close below there on a daily. If you see that, okay, yeah, this thing's going to come back down to like, you know, low 80s, upper 70s. Until that happens, there is a decent shot here that you get an actual move towards 113 to 115-ish region. Sorry, 113 to 118. Make that. Yeah. Difficult one because I'm not seeing any like super obvious signals, which is what I like to see. If I had to call it, I actually do think it would try an upside move from here. But again, I would quickly change my mind on that anywhere below the pivot that we spoke about. When I go to the quarterly, I'm more bearishly biased here. When I go to the monthly, I don't really have like a major bias. So yeah, if it does come back down below, like I said, Monday's low and closes the daily below there, doesn't even need to really come back down below this price action pivot, in my opinion. That would be good enough for me to say, hey, this thing's coming back down to lows. But until then, I guess I would keep some hopium alive for an extension of this move because it's not like obviously bad. So yeah, I'm kind of struggling with this one, to be honest. I'll answer this really quickly and then we'll get to lay. Necrosaro says, any good resources you would recommend on learning the basis of crypto TA charting? I mean, charting is more or less the same no matter what asset you're on. Yeah, there's specific nuances here and there that kind of change a little bit of things, but the overwhelming majority of it is going to be the same. Now, on my channel, I have a free playlist called the TA 101 playlist that you can get to through my what's it called, the channel main page, and that will give you like a very solid beginner level, beginner friendly level type of of understanding. But it's not gonna, this is not gonna make you like a professional trader or anything like this. It's just there to give people like a general idea of at least the way that I look at things and how, some very common TA principles and TA indicators and tools operate. Outside of that, there's plenty of other resources on YouTube as well. I'm sure that there's some absolutely phenomenal ones. I also have a free school as well with the crypto school people. I don't really advertise it on my channel, to be honest with you, but that's available through their whole thing, which you can find on their channel. It's a little bit more like higher production. That is a nice thing about working with them, is that they have really, really good production levels. But yeah, other than that, there's some other great people as well on YouTube. I'm sure of it. Some of them are my friends, like the Pizzino brothers. I think that they're really, really good. I would just kind of go around and find people that you like and see if they have, just beginner friendly playlists, like the one that I have, and, pick a few people, learn from that, and then really immerse yourself in kind of your own thing. Because when it comes to trading, when it comes to technical analysis, you're going to have the best success when you create your own system, to be just 100% blunt with you. And the only way that you can do that is, first you need to learn from somewhere, at least the basics on how to use things. But then from there, it's all about just back testing it and figuring out, what is actually relevant for you and what's actually going to work for you. The only way to do that is to do the work. Anyways, Lay Hallmark says, hey, Krown, been watching you for years. Hell yeah, man. I love to hear that. Love your work. Thank you, man. Can you take a look at Radium on the short term and long term? All right. Basically everything. Okay. What was it? Radium. Yeah. Okay. So this one's a prior cycle shitcoin. And it has the prior cycle shitcoin chart of death and decay here yet again. Did have a pretty nice pump up in 2024, but nowhere near those prior all-time highs. Anyways, this one in the short term does not look as similar to the rest of the things that we've seen today. It looks less like it's putting in a local high right here, to be fair. But what I would say, just because of how many times we've seen this today, is that I would still be skeptical on it, to be honest. But until you actually come back down below what would it be, Monday or Tuesday's low, and close the daily dildo below there, I wouldn't, I guess I'd give it kind of the benefit of the doubt. Do you have bearish divergence going on here? You do have bearish divergence potential, but yeah, it won't be confirmed until you're actually at least below yesterday's low on a closing basis. And at that point, you probably do see a move towards like 285, but that's all short-term shit. As far as the long-term goes, it does seem pretty simple on this one, just because, I guess I already have it charted out here, but basically the 200 symbol to the upside, which is where those green lines are, or this white one right here, is at basically $4. As long as you're closing below there, it is range bound at best, with your range highs at $4 and your range lows at 1.5. So, it'd probably have a nice little pullback here if it does confirm that bearish divergence, which personally, I think that it will, which would send it probably back down to like 2.5 or so. If it does trade below on a pullback 220, the Tuesday, the 6th of May low, at that point, I'd be looking for it to collapse all the way back down to the bottom side of the range. Only way that I get bullish on this one, looking for, like not like new highs or anything like this, but new highs on the rally, certainly. And perhaps, a pretty big percentage move would be, again, closing above $4. If you can close above $4, I think that this thing could easily travel up towards, $6.5, in the more long term, let's say. But for right now, this is a pretty damn good area to initiate a bit of a pullback from. Again, pullback is not the same thing as like go to zero or anything like this. So yeah, I think I hit just about everything that you were looking for on that one, including the long term. And when I look at the quarterly, man, I got to shoot you straight. I don't think that this one's going to be heading up towards $6. Or if it does, I mean, that would be a great area to get rid of some at. But yeah, that last quarterly is pretty fucking ugly. So whatever bounce you do get from here, which has already been pretty nice, to be honest, I do think that it will fade. Like getting back above this high, I think is rather unlikely in the short term or even medium term or probably even long term as well. But it doesn't mean that you can't get an extension of this rally towards like $5-6. It doesn't really do anything for you, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on this one. Yeah, man, I love the Pacino brothers. They're really, really, really good people. Like, I just genuinely enjoy hanging out with them. Both myself and Elsa have actually hung out with both of them. Just super, super cool. I love those guys. Jason, I know a little bit better than Michael, but Michael's a fucking stand-up guy. Super, super cool. And of course, Jason is just my gay brother. So yeah. All right, last one for Cornish Crypto UK, because he is one of the OGs of OGs, and he's looking at Cardurpio, and we will pull up Cardurpio here, seeing what this one looks like. Yeah, again, another one that's in a much different position than nearly everything that we've seen today. So you can definitely see the difference in charts here. This one does have macro cycle higher lows, and it is holding above all major moving averages actually on the weekly time frame as well. So I put it in a different bucket than everything else. Like if Bitcoin has a nice move to the upside, this thing should follow decently well. Anyways, just like most things though, in the short term, it does seem like most things have found, the top side of the range in the short term. For this one, that would be about 80, let's just call it 84 cents. So as long as you're closing below there, I would be expecting a pullback here. Which it already is, obviously. So maybe we're a little bit late to this party, but if it wants to pull back a little bit more towards 72 or 71 cents, that's fine. It's still a higher low, to be fair, but I would be a little bit more biased towards short-term downside than not, especially as long as you're below 84 cents. And yes, that does mean that you can test back around here. Just need to see it close above here before I say, hey, that's no longer the wise thing to be looking for. It's actually breaking out. At that point, you're probably looking at $1, give or take a few cents from that number. Quarterly, this one's, that's a monthly. Let's go to the quarterly. Again, significantly different than everything else we've seen today. If this thing even just trades back above last quarter's high, I'd say the same thing as Bitcoin. I think that this thing is going to go on a fucking phenomenal run, 150, 160-ish region, at least. But yeah, in the short term, as long as you're below, especially even the 200 simple here, which is 80 cents even almost, I'd be expecting a short-term pullback, but these are all range plays. And like I said, you got higher lows as long as you're above the 7th of May's low. So, if it came down to like 71, 72 cents, give it a chance to try for a higher low there. It might even try right here, to be honest. Some things are looking like they will. Very low term timeframes, like a 4 hour. Yeah, I think you got a little bit of a pop, maybe back to 80 cents. But again, I don't think that changes anything. I'd be mindful of the daily here. Daily back above the range highs. Okay, at that point, you got a nice move on your hands. Like I said, somewhere around $1. All right, cool. that is where we'll end things for today. It's good seeing all of the familiar faces as always. Very quiet time in the market, despite Bitcoin being above 6 digits, which is probably a good sign. I don't know. I don't know if it's a good sign or a bounce out, but it does feel that way. Fucking buy the dip. Thank you for that, brother. We are all wrecked. But that's okay. We're here with each other. Maybe the real gains were the derps that we met along the way. Something like this, at least. Anyways, yeah. That's going to do it for me today, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you on this nice Friday morning. We'll be back on tomorrow with, regular Big Five analysis. And